Welcome to the California Prison Research Hub. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be forgotten? To be locked away and left to the mercy of a system that was supposed to correct you? Today, we're going on a journey into the dark history of California's correctional system, a history that shows how punishment has evolved from brutal beatings to something far more insidious. This isn't a story of linear progress toward greater humaneness. It's a story of contradiction, where the formal prohibition of overt corporal punishment has often given rise to legally constrained yet devastating forms of psychological and institutional control. California's prisons began in the mid-19th century, rooted in a mix of American penological theory and the raw economic realities of the 19th century. The state's penal system began as a legal fiction in 1850, with county jails serving as state prisons until a permanent facility could be built. In 1851, the state legislature leased prison management to private entities who would profit from convict labor. It was under this private system that San Quentin State Prison was built. In this environment, a culture of brutal, unofficial physical punishment flourished. A 1903 investigation into San Quentin and Folsom revealed that practices like showering naked prisoners with a high-pressure hose and hanging them from a beam by their thumbs were common practice. These abuses were not part of a formal, codified system, but were the result of a profound institutional vacuum and a lack of strong, centralized, and accountable state authority. Then, in 1913, a significant change occurred. The California legislature formally abolished corporal punishment. This was the dawn of the progressive era, and a new reform warden named James A. Johnston replaced physical beatings with a different disciplinary tool, solitary confinement. At the time of its introduction, isolation was considered a progressive and humane alternative to the crude physical tortures of the 19th century. The goal was to promote self-reflection and moral reform, a way to punish the mind and soul rather than the body. But this humane approach laid the groundwork for a new, equally damaging form of institutional control. For the first half of the 20th century, courts largely refused to intervene in prison administration, operating under a hands-off doctrine. This began to erode in the mid-20th century, largely driven by the broader civil rights movement and a series of landmark federal court decisions. In 1962, Robinson v. California applied the Eighth Amendment's prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment to state actors. 2 years later, Cooper v. Pate ruled that prisoners could file civil rights lawsuits against state officials for constitutional rights violations. These decisions paved the way for challenges to entire prison systems, with the Holt v. Sarver case in 1970 establishing that the totality of circumstances of an entire prison environment could be deemed unconstitutional. But as courts intervened, a powerful political and social backlash took hold. In the tough-on-crime era of the 1990s, California widely adopted security housing units, or SHUs. These supermax units were designed to permanently separate individuals deemed security risks. Solitary confinement, once seen as a reform, was now used for prolonged, indefinite isolation that was intended to break a man's spirit. The very thing meant to be a humane alternative had been weaponized into a form of psychological torture. This new, legally sanitized form of punishment was met with a new wave of legal challenges. In Madrid v. Gomez, 1995, a federal court found that placing mentally ill prisoners in solitary confinement could constitute cruel and unusual punishment. A parallel lawsuit, Coleman v. Brown, 1995, found that the state's failure to provide adequate mental health care violated the Eighth Amendment. These legal actions were amplified by a powerful social force, mass inmate resistance. In 2011 and again in 2013, thousands of incarcerated individuals across California launched mass hunger strikes to protest the torturous conditions of the SHUs and the policy of indefinite solitary confinement. As a direct result of their actions and subsequent litigation, the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation agreed to end indefinite solitary confinement for all inmates. Today, California has a comprehensive legal framework that prohibits corporal punishment and physical or psychological degradation. But here's the final, and perhaps most frustrating, contradiction. The central challenge is no longer about the absence of a legal prohibition against corporal punishment. It's about ensuring compliance with the laws already on the books. The Office of the Inspector General found that the state's investigations into use of force complaints were inadequate in 12 of the 13 cases it evaluated. They cited specific failures, including investigators failing to interview accused officers and ignoring potential witnesses. The struggle has shifted from the question of if certain acts are illegal to how to ensure institutional accountability and close the persistent gap between policy and practice. The evolution of punishment in California's prisons is thus an ongoing struggle where each legal and social victory over one form of abuse has inevitably revealed a new, more subtle, and equally devastating form of control. If you found this video informative, be sure to give us a like and subscribe to the channel for more content from the California Prison Research Hub.